Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We will begin with chapter 37, verse 3. Chapter 37, verse 3, Parshas Vayeishev begins with clear tensions between Yosef and his brothers. And it says in the pasuk, V'Yisrael ohavas Yosef mikol banav. The patriarch Yaakov Yisrael loved Yosef more than his other sons. Kiven zkunim hu lo. Different ways to understand this phrase. The most straightforward way is he was a child born to him at an old age, and so he enjoyed a special relationship with him. V'asalo ksones pasim, and Yisrael made for Yosef this beautiful coat, and of course, much is made of the coat, and it was the fact that he had this special gift specifically for Yosef. Certainly aroused the jealousy of the brothers. Just for added perspective, there's a very interesting kliyakar on this pasuk. I believe it's the second kliyakar on pasuk gimel. Yeah, the second kliyakar on pasuk gimel. The asalok sones pasim says the kliyakar near. I'll just say it is what it is. But I always find it a little bit perplexing. You read these psukim, and this is the symbol of Yaakov's affection for Yosef, which is people's affections can have all kinds of symbols. But it's just interesting. There's such a focus on this garment. Is that what it's really all about? And so kliyakar vasalok sonos pasim niran advarim achar shekvar bilbil ruvain yitzua aviv nitla mimenu habachora. Says the kliyakar, we read in last week's parsha the story of Ruvain switching the beds. And let's assume, says the kliyakar, that this is all happening in chronological order. Of course, not everything in the Torah is in chronological order, but absent indications to the contrary, we normally assume it's in chronological order, which means that this whole story happens after Ruvain switched the beds. And we know that ultimately Ruvain is considered to have lost the birthright because of that act of switching the beds. So says the kliyakar, why do we have to assume that decision was only made near the end of Yaakov's life? Let it be that it was made by this point. V'yachshav misara li Yosef. And Yaakov is now taking the birthright from Ruvain and giving it to Yosef instead. Of course, the most famous manifestation of Yosef having the birthright is there are two tribes that stem from Yosef, whereas all the other children of Yaakov, all the other sons of Yaakov, had one tribe come from them. So it's like a double portion, so to say, for Yosef. You know why Yaakov made a special coat for Yosef? To indicate that Yosef has status as the firstborn. Because at this time, the special service to Hashem would have been with the firstborn. This whole idea of Levi having a special status really only happened after the sin of the golden calf. So the firstborn, in a sense, is like a Kohen. Our association, one of our primary associations with Kohanim, is they wear special garments. Okay, also lechavod luciferes ksones ze dome levigde kahuna. So this, again, obviously this is far ahead of the time of the garments of the Kohanim, but it's similar in concept to the garment of the Kohen. There was a special tunic that Kohen wore, so this is like that. So this is a very interesting thing. And so now if you understand it this way, then it's more than just, he could have gotten him a nice tie from the store and instead he made this coat for him. It's a coat that's symbolic of his unique status among the brothers. So I could certainly understand why that would arouse a strong jealousy from the brothers. Okay, verse 5. Yosef has a dream by Ageit Lechav, and he told his dream to his brothers. And the telling of the dream to his brothers only increased their resentment of him. Verse 6. He said to them, Shimuna, please hear. Please hear this dream which I have dreamt, and we're all gathering bundles, and your bundles all bow to my bundle. And they were not very happy when they heard this. Just an interesting sforno over here, sforno on pasuk vav. Shimuna chalom hazeh. Please hear this dream. Lo dai shesipra chalom. It's not enough that he told them about the dream. Kigam amar lehem shimuna. He didn't even just tell them about the dream. He told them, please hear the dream. Klomar, havinu es horoas hachalom. Understand what the message is of this dream. Uvozeh hosif lahatil evas echav alav. And this, not only telling them the dream, but this thing of like, listen closely to the dream, because there's an important message here, that only increased the enmity that they had towards him. Just an interesting wrinkle in specifically the language of please listen. Okay. Let's go on to verse 12. So he has these dreams and he shares them with his brothers, and the brothers are very jealous of him. And as we already described, there wasn't such a good dynamic before he told the brothers about the dream. And now in verse 12, so his brothers went to shepherd the sheep of their father in Shechem. Verse 13, Vayomer Yisrael Yosef. So the Yisrael says to Yosef, Halo achecha roim b'Shechem. Your brothers are shepherding in Shechem. I want to send you to them. Vayomer lo hineni. Yosef said, I'm ready for the job. Verse 14, Vayomer lo. Yaakov said to Yosef, Lechno re'eh shlom achecha ve'shlom atzon v'ashiveni davar. Go see how your brothers are doing. Go see how the sheep is doing, and bring me back word. Give me a report. Vayishlochehu me'emek Chevron. He sent him from the depth of Chevron, from the depth of Chevron, from the valley of Chevron, Vayavo Shechema, and he came to Shechem. This phrase, he sent him from the valley of Chevron, is an interesting phrase. Let's see Rashi on Pasuk Yudalit, Me'emek Chevron, Valo Chevron Bahar. Rashi says, that's funny. Chevron's on a mountain. So what's he talking about? He sent him from the deep point of Chevron. Skipping a few words, Ella me'etza amuka shall also tzadik hakavur b'Chevron. It's not that he sent him from the valley of Chevron. It's that he sent him based on the deep counsel, like Amek, low, deep, the deep counsel of the one buried in Chevron. What's this about? A very, very interesting medrash. Avram is told in his covenant with God that the day will come where his offspring are strangers in a strange land, and that, of course, is a reference to the Egypt experience. This story this episode of Yosef going to check on his brothers is going to be the beginning of the story of the Jewish exile in Egypt, as we know. So the medrash that Rashi is citing is saying a very interesting thing, that this ostensibly simple, mundane idea that Yosef should go, just check on the brothers, unbeknownst to the parties in the story, ends up being a very core moment in the historical arc of the Jewish people, connecting to the covenant between Hashem and Avram. Very, very interesting pshat. Let's see the Ramban. Ramban on Pasuk Yudalid, Vayishlacheu me'emek Chevron, Yaskir HaKasuv HaMakom Asher Shlacham Misham. I mean, besides everything else, besides this point that Rashi is making, why does he refer to it as the valley? And why does he even have to say he sent him from Chevron? Why is that even relevant? Who cares where he sent him from? So the Ramban says it's important, Lomar, because it's teaching us, Ki hoya merchak rav beineim. It was a long trip. It was a long trip from Chevron to Shechem. V'lochein asu imo ra'ah. That's why when they look up and they see Yosef coming towards them, that's why at this juncture in their relationship, they decide to do this terrible thing, ultimately throwing him to the pit. Ki rechokim hayu me'aviem. They were far away from their father. He wasn't going to show up. They weren't playing in the backyard. I'm kidding. I mean, they were adults, but they weren't on some walk. And who knows what they'll do? And at any moment, the father's going to say, "What's going on over there?" It was a long trip away. The father's nowhere to be found. He's back at home. So that's one important component of the story. Ulahagid ki Yosef l'chvod aviv nisametz l'lechas achreim el makom bracha. Another thing this detail teaches us is if Yaakov wanted Yosef to go on this journey, Yosef was ready to do it. V'lo amar eich elech. He didn't say, how could it be that I'll go? V'heim sonim osi. I can't go. They hate me. He didn't say that. So that's another credit. I mean, you could have said that Yosef says, gosh, it's so far away from you. The very reason why it's significant to this story that they were able to do something to him, maybe Yosef would have been reluctant to go in the first place. Doesn't say that because Yaakov wanted him to go. Okay, and then he cites the medrash cited by Rashi. So two very different pshatim in the relevance of saying he sent him from Hebron. Now let's see verse 15. So Yaakov is on his way. A man finds him. And behold, Yaakov is kind of wandering in the field. And the man asks Yaakov, what are you looking for? 16. Yosef says, I'm looking for my brothers. Tell me, please, where they are with the sheep. Verse 17. The man says to Yosef, they've left here because I heard them talking about, let's go to Dosan. And Yosef went after his brothers, and he found them in Dosan. We know the Chumash leaves out so many details of stories. It feels like a total change. You sort of expect the next pasuk to tell you what drink Yosef got along the way. In other words, what he's looking, he can't find them. He met someone. Hey, do you know where my brothers are? Sure, I'll tell you where they went. These are 3 psukim. What was the purpose of these 3 psukim? So we will talk about this tomorrow, God willing, to try to understand what's going on with these psukim. This morning we had an interesting kliyarka talking about the significance of the beautiful coat that Yaakov made for Yosef. We had a sforno talking about the relevance of saying, please hear the dream. And we have very different ideas from Rashi and the Ramban regarding the significance of Yaakov sending Yosef from the valley of Hebron.